a podcast by respiratory leaders for respiratory leaders. This is RT Sidebar. Stay tuned.
Look at Jody there. Jody is ready to go for RT Sidebar. She's got her gear on. I'm so excited. Welcome to RT Sidebar. It is May the 8th. We have a great group of people on today. We have G Dubs, George Washington. What's up? I love it. George Washington University Hospital, the flagship in DC. They know their stuff. And what I love about this episode, and you guys are going to love it, is that collaboration matters. So first off, Maureen, happy Nurses Week.
Thank you.
Happy Nurses Week to all of our nurses out there. GD Pedanici, our nurse, our friend. Happy Nurses Week, but happy Nurses Week to everybody. I have some great guests today. I have Joe Verde, Director of Respiratory Care, Chair of UHS Respiratory. Great, awesome guy. Phenomenal haircut. I gotta say that.
It takes me a long time to get ready.
You're right. I have Lisa, respiratory educator extraordinaire at the Dubs. And we have Maureen, divisional director, emergency, critical care, everything. But we have this team on today because teams matter. And when I think about Nurses Week, and thank God you guys aren't Hospital Week anymore. You actually have your own week now, right? So what I think about is all the nurses that have affected me and the patients that we have had. So to have this group of people on today is so exciting. Anna, I see you smiling. You're ready to go. I know it. But we're going to get started. Anna put some comments in the chat, so take a look at that. So let's get started about GW. So welcome to RT Sidebar. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
That is awesome. So Joe, I'm going to start with you because you and I share the same haircut. There is something special about George Washington University that's different than a lot of hospitals around the country. So tell us a little bit about your relationship with the two wonderful people next to you and how that evolved. Let's start from the beginning. Was there collaboration at the beginning when you first walked in the door?
No, I would say that when I first came into GW, it was similar but different than other facilities that I've been at. And the difference is I feel departments, nursing, respiratory, other disciplines, ancillary services were in silos. They did not work in collaboration. The also level that the therapists that were working here was not as high as I thought it should be. It was more, and I kind of look at this most, we should be practitioners rather than techs or neb jockeys, that are brought up. Don't like those terms, and we shouldn't be that because we're practitioners. So that level needed to be changed when I came here. Obviously, I found Maureen that was a good partner that was in the ICU. And I thought it was interesting, the first time I even went into ICU too, is talking to nurses. They were on their own island as well, talking with providers, talking with therapists. And I think I came in to give a suggestion for a vent change for an ECMO patient. She was like, "Oh, you don't need the help, it's okay." I'm like, "No, we're a team, I'll help." And I moved the patient too. She didn't even know I was the director at the time. I was kind of just in scrubs, working day and night, so I can really assess like what's going on with the facility, do a gap analysis of what I need to change, where are we right now. And I thought it was interesting. The nurse gave me a bunch of information and really was like, "This is how it works here." I was like, "Yeah, we really should change that," right? And that started that discussion. Then I interviewed Maureen and I was like, "Hire her." I walked into the interview, I was like, "She's the right person that will go to the bedside, fix the problem," similar to me. But I was like, hire, they did, obviously, they listened to me. And then we started our journey, to change. And we've gone a long way in 5 years, right? We're 5 years now.
Okay.
Obviously to my left, Lisa, we worked at another facility before. So when I found out she wanted to come to GW, I was like, yes, she tells me what I'm doing wrong, what I should improve on. Really, I look at hiring people that are not similar to me, but different, because
Mhm.
if I hire someone that's different, they're going to think in a different manner that I might be wrong. I think it was interesting. One of the meetings that one of the therapists brought up is like, I want a completely different direction, and said,
Mhm.
and the therapist came to me and said, hey, it was nice that you said, no, you're wrong, you're right. Like, he never saw a leader go and say that. And sometimes you have to say, no, I wasn't right about that. I need to correct it a different way. Your idea is better than mine. And I think Lisa models that to no end. She tells me sometimes, hey, let's go with it this direction. Or I'll be frustrated in a meeting and she'd be like, go this way, right? And sometimes it works.
Bring it
Sometimes-
back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Let's
I just get him in trouble at meetings.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So Lisa,
Yeah.
you walk in to to George Washington. You have Joe there. He's got a plan. What was it like walking in there? Like, because you know what he wants to do, but you actually kind of have to make it happen,
Yes.
right? So what does that look like? Is it like, hey, collaboration, we want this all to come together, but you weren't coming from a great place and you needed to get to a great place. So Lisa, what was your perspective as you walked in the door?
Well, first thing I thought was we got a lot of work to do, because we had to get the staff thinking like we were thinking. And
Okay.
that took, I want to say 2 years. That took 2 years for them to turn completely around and decide that they want to learn. And we have more therapists now that are ACLS, PALS, and NRP certified, and stable certified. And they're always coming to me asking me, can they take these classes? And I was able to work with the educator, the director of education here in this hospital, to get those classes opened up to us, So we had a lot of work to do, and we actually did it. Each year, we have made more and more improvements in a positive direction that will yield better patient outcomes.
I totally agree, Lisa. So I'd like to dig into that a little bit. Is it took you 2 years to steer the cruise ship?
Right,
Like it's a lot.
right.
Like, what does buy-in look like from your team? They go from, hey, I'm a respiratory therapist. We were discussing before we hit record. We live in the dungeon. We're not our. This isn't who we are. Don't touch our ventilator. That type of thing. But then, how do you get them to feel included? Because I think that's the hardest piece. And Maureen, I'm going to come to you because I think that you're one of the keys to that. But how do you change that mentality, Lisa? It's hard. And Joe, think about how do you change that, because it's hard to do.
So one of the things that I bring to Joe is I tell him we have to give them the why behind why we're doing something. If we don't give them the why behind it, then we won't get the buy-in that we need. And we had a project that we recently worked on. We weren't getting the buy-in that we needed, not only from the RTs, but from the nurses. And then, in our leadership meeting, we opened up to our leaders to give them the why behind it, so that they can help the staff understand why we need to do this. And so now we have better improvements in those in that project.
I think that's really important, Lisa. You just said something that's important, is that if you want to change the culture of a department, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You absolutely can't. You need to have leaders in your organization that really put forth the effort and have the same talk track that you guys have. So
Exactly.
this is where I come to Maureen. So Maureen, divisional director, like you're basically all of nursing, you know,
A good part of it.
and your favorite person is the guy with the nice haircut
Yep,
next to you,
yep.
and Lisa. Like you're their cheerleader. So when Joe comes to you and say, "Hey, I care about being a bigger part of this organization," what was that like when Joe walked into your office when you got hired? Like, what was that like?
Right?
It wasn't a page. It was funny because the room we're in now is actually the room I was interviewed in. I still remember where Joe was sitting, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then
That's
I
awesome.
came up onto the floors, and I purposely I come in blues. I think that's one of our key things. We're all still very clinically competent, and
Mhm.
we get dirty. So, and I knew just from watching and the conversations I had with Joe, we think very similar. And we're not the person that wants to be in the forefront. We understand that in order for this to work, we have to make sure our teams are empowered and that we're going to take the pushback or the questions. And when I say pushback, I don't mean it in a bad sense. I think all of us here, we're comfortable with who we are and what the teams we have built. That, as Joe said, our expectation is we expect that feedback. And I knew from these guys, they were going to give it to me. And as well as they take it from me, to the point that I don't need them to come to me anymore. They're going to do whatever they want to do with the leadership of our team, and we're going to accept it. Because one of the charges I was given when I first came here
Mhm.
is that we need to get our critical care committee up and running, and it always needs to be running. And we vet everything that touches critical care here in this hospital. And what I was very strong at, it wasn't just going to be me. So that's where we go to the triad leadership that we develop. So everybody knows that it's either myself, it's Joe, or our medical director for critical care, Dr. Daniel Davison. They know the three of us, we're always at the meeting. We're always in concert. The three of us always try to meet, even if we're not on the same page, we have a compromise that we're going to put through, you know, a group effort and presentation that everybody knows no matter who they come to, it's going to be the
Mhm.
same wording. And we definitely know the why. So they know that we have each other's back. Even if we disagree on something, we've gotten to a point that is compromised that all the areas are going to work together. We learned early on, it's not us. It's the people at the bedside. It's the ones that are doing the work. They have the skill sets. And it took a while for nursing to understand that they are just as educated and licensed as the nurses.
Mhm.
I think what Joe, myself, and Lisa have done, we've helped our teams do the presentation, speak to the issues of the patient that we're seen as a professional and as a clinician. A clinician is a respiratory therapist, a clinician is a nurse, and a clinician is a provider. We are all on the same level. We just have different roles, and that's what we promote.
I I love that so much. And we talk about the triad and your leadership framework of the triad is people, product, and technical. But I've always looked at this. We have a bunch of RTs that I know that have been in the military. And if you know, when it comes to helping people out in the field, there's three: the nurse, the RT, and the provider.
Mhm.
Those three are the team.
Mhm.
So as one of the things that you guys said at the pre-interview was this is that if a RT has an issue, Maureen, they'll actually come to you.
Mhm.
And Joe and Lisa are not offended by that.
Mhm.
That's pretty rare. How does that happen? Like what makes that happen?
I think it takes time, right?
Mhm.
It's what Maureen kind of talked about was respect and understanding that the nurse has something to say and they have value, right? To
Mhm.
say it clinically about the patient, so on. The therapist does and the provider. So I think it goes with respect. It goes with she's not trying to throw me underneath the wagon or underneath the she's real
Under
she
the
is
vent.
under the vent.
I love it.
It's for patient safety, and usually it's like if Maureen's calling, hey, I need your help, right? With something, it's not, oh, I'll get there or so on. Usually if it's patient related, I will go right away, me or another therapist, or sure, ask another therapist and they'll be fine with it. But it goes both ways. A nurse, if I asked a nurse in the ICU when I first came here to do what I asked them to do now, they would never happen. They would maybe not do it, maybe not follow through. But
Sure.
now I go ask the question, or hey, I'll help them with something. They know it's going to get done, or they do it for me as well. So it goes both ways. It's not just therapists coming to her, it's also nurses come to me quite often. So the respect goes both ways because we're here to help each other rather than, again, being in that silo. We're a team, and the team is not just respiratory.
And it's not just the nurses that are coming to
Mhm.
Lisa and
Yeah.
Joe. We have it now, all providers, NP, because we're teaching facilities, so we have all levels here. And even our senior leadership will come to any one of us. And what's even nicer is that Lisa, because I'm very adamant about this, Lisa has the backing and the collaboration with the critical care educators. So we have two very strong critical care educators to the point to where I was very, very firm in that the respiratory section of the onboarding for the nurses needs to be taught by respiratory. That's their purview. I mean, we bring into the nursing components, but in terms of those nuances, respiratory therapy needs to teach us so we can manage collaborative. I can't expect someone to go in and say, I'm going to teach Joe's job. I'm a nurse. He's a respiratory therapist. There's got to be a respect for those roles.
Right.
It's interesting. So Lisa, I'm going to come to you in just a second. So it's, I trust you.
Oh, yeah.
That is a big word. So trust takes some time. Yes, we all have our own expertise, but that doesn't mean it's a silo. It means that's our expertise. So having a diverse team of thought leaders really goes a long way. Lisa, how does that feel to you? You're the educator. My educator at my last job, shout out to Kathy Brenner. You guys run the ship. All right. We're going to pretend that Joe and Maureen aren't there. Lisa, you run the ship. That's how this works. Okay. That's just how this is.
I'm actually writing her out that evaluation too. So.
There you go. I love it. I love it. She's going to have a great evaluation. So, Lisa, how does that make you feel? Okay. You went from we're a normal respiratory department that's not respected to what you are today. How does that make you feel personally?
I really feel wonderful. I feel like we have done something. We set out, we had a goal and we achieved it. I recently had the chief of gerontology knock on the door and ask me if I would be willing to teach her fellows how to terminally extubate patients and what to expect. And I mean, it's just wonderful that people are coming up to me and they're wanting to know about respiratory. They want respiratory to help them, to teach them. Working closely with the neonatology team, getting things going over there. But I mean, I would never thought I needed to teach a doctor how to withdraw life support from a patient. And
that's not the only thing she does. She teaches residents all the time.
Well, the rapid stuff.
Stuff that we've done as well, where they shadow. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful feeling to be appreciated. That's the word.
I think that's the biggest thing. You just said the word appreciated. I think that every professional just wants that.
Right.
To know that what they're doing is important, that it's actually helping people, and that you're part of a team. And I think that if you can do that, I mean, we talk about staffing all the time because staffing is probably the worst, pain that we have. But if you create that environment, people want to come and work with you.
Yes.
Is that what you see?
Yes.
I don't think none of us, I think I can safely speak for us, is that we can't even fathom not respecting someone's skill sets. And people, I think there needs to be a clear understanding that we all have the education to do our respected fields.
Mm-hmm.
Our job as a leader is to make sure we help nurture that, but also at the same time, if we have to discipline someone because of poor performance, it's two separate issues. It's nothing personal. We're looking because we want patient safety, but at the end of the day, we're doing that because we know you have that capacity to do well, and we're going to help you get there. And if you don't, and again, it's just a performance, we're going to have that conversation and figure out what's the best path to go. Do we figure out how do we put in more education, where Lisa and the critical care educators are very, very in tune to help get that person over the hump?
Mm-hmm.
Or we will sit down and try and find somewhere else for that person that they can perform, feel like they're, adding something, but also making sure that everyone's safe in what they're doing. So we've come into it knowing that we have respective roles and we have a standard, that the expectation is already there. You have to prove to us you can't do it.
Wow.
It's not the other way around. We don't think you can't do it. We know you can do it, and you prove us otherwise.
It just might not be the right fit, right?
Exactly.
And those things happen. That's a really interesting point. So you have people and you're developing people. A lot of times they look at it as punitive. I'm good, I'm bad, black and white, done, that's how it is. But you're saying, no, I respect you as a human first. And I'm going to help you as a human and figure out how you fit in our area. So that's amazing. Something that is pretty darn rare. So what I want to ask next is, what is your secret sauce? What is the secret sauce at George Washington where respiratory and nursing come together? Like you guys all have your own personal feelings about that. So Joe, I'm going to start with you. What do you feel like the secret sauce is?
Now, that's a hard question, right? What is
It
it?
is.
Right? It's definitely the staff here. I mean, I love my staff that's here. I think it's a family in some relationship as well, but also the nursing staff as well. Like Maureen kind of was saying, we talk about building people, and Maureen and I have talked about staff that, like, hey, we need to really do this with this person. Like this person's doing really good, and like we're blended across even both of our departments in some manner. Or I will support that same kind of, this is where we want to improve this person, or like, hey, this person needs help with, I don't know, we did with supplies, right? Like that we collaborated for supplies. And that was a good discussion of like building certain people that could help us do those things, because you can't do it all by yourself. And I think that's kind of that secret sauce that works here, is really grabbing the right people and keeping the right people, and the people that aren't the right sauce that we need, that hot sauce or whatever it is, we make sure that this is not the place for them, right? It may not be the right fit. It may be they're the bad apple in the department. It really needs to be a clear discussion of it. It can't be just put under the rug kind of discussion. And sometimes that's hard as a leader. I think that's the hardest thing. Any frontline nurse, therapist, so on, that ends up moving into the leadership role, they have to get past that piece of it. And that piece is really understanding of, you need to be clear with certain staff. And you need to, there's a business side, a management side, and then there's also the patient safety, clinician kind of side of it as well. And I think that's the secret sauce in there. And we have the same feeling for it. So we just breed people with the same mindset as that, and the same feeling for it, because ultimately I'm here for that, for the patient, right? My patient, your patient. And that's really our secret sauce, is we really care. And I will go into a patient's room. COVID was a perfect example of it. I would say it wouldn't be like I would be in my office. I was never in my office, I would say. And Lisa's the same way. She will jump into anything. It doesn't matter my title at that point. We're trying to help this patient.
I think that's the key to the secret sauce, and we all agree with it, is that we are very, very present. We just happen to have that title. At the end of the day, I'm an RN, these guys are respiratory therapists. And we've never forgotten what our roots are. And I think that we are, again, as I can say, we're proud of the skill sets that we've worked so hard to
Of
get,
course.
and we maintain them. And our teams see us in the rooms, and if they need to talk, a lot of times if we're over a patient, they're whispering in our ear, telling us something, and we're gonna go right out and have the conversation. Just like 2 nights ago, the ER was out of control, and I had to go in there and take a patient, and one of Joe's team was in there, and I had forgotten how to do something on a vent, and he was sitting there right there showing us all the education. And I think we're humble enough to know, again, I don't care, I'm the director, I wasn't 100% sure on this. They need to see me asking the question, and that there's a trust and a vulnerability that we want everybody to be there, because that's the only way we're going to get better. And we also say, you don't ask the question, that's where the problem comes. You don't give us that pushback in a respectful way, that's where we have the problem, because we're not going to grow from that.
I think it's a very good point. I actually bring it up when
Wow.
we interview people that I want you to speak up.
Yep.
Especially in a teaching facility, you have to speak up. The time that I will be upset with you is if you let an order or let something go through that you thought was not correct, right? You knew it wasn't correct. If you speak up and you get pushed back on that piece, I will support you to the end.
Yep.
Wow. So when I talk about secret sauce, you're talking about also the ingredients that goes into that secret sauce. Lisa, any
I
thoughts
think
about?
the secret sauce is layered in mutual respect that we have for one another. Like Joe and Maureen's been talking about all morning long, we collaborate together. We don't talk at each other, we talk together.
And that for me is what I find beautiful. So Lisa, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. During our pre-interview, we were talking about just the GW way, and you said something, and in a personal way, that being with this team is beautiful for you.
Yes.
Describe that a little bit.
Well, it's definitely unlike any other team that I've ever worked with. Joe is the kind of boss that will give me whatever I need to get the job done. I can always rely on Maureen if I need to talk to her about any nursing related issues. That is not a common thing that you can see in many hospitals. And so that's what I mean by it's a beautiful relationship. We come together as a team always. And it's not just nursing, but we work with rehab. We work with the lab. So everybody knows Joe, Lisa, and Maureen, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when I think triad, we talked about personal, technical, clinical. I think the triad is you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are a nice triad. I like that. And that's beautiful. Anna talked, put this in the chat, which I think is an important piece. And this is a hard thing to overcome, is you don't want to look silly by asking questions.
Yes.
But Joe, you said you almost look silly if you don't ask questions, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And again, we're centered around the patient, right? So if you don't say something, yes, you look silly, but also we could have done better care for that patient there. Or we might change our practice too, based on what you did. I mean, we've changed a large amount of things, and rather than, I think Lisa kind of said, you don't talk at that person, we solve the problem. And I think that's a big piece of it, is we've moved a large amount of things. I think the most recent thing is post-respiratory failure.
Yeah.
So PSI 11s. And whereas nursing drives a lot of it, but we have a protocol and so on that we've pushed forward with that we have made those numbers decrease, right? And it's not, we've had to discuss, and a lot of it's been from therapists that have brought up, hey, we need to do this, or this has gone on with it. It was our liver patients, I think we were looking at. And it was a lot of, a therapist spoke up. I think the therapist actually went to Maureen to get the patient back to the ICU, and then we did chest expansion and so on. The patient didn't end up getting reintubated. And I think that started hey, we need to do more with this. And then we got we got the surgeon,
Yeah.
right? You have a good relationship that we're like, we're gonna start this, right? Like they saw everything and was pretty much like, let the therapist, okay, let me know what you want to order, right? Pretty much in the room, in the ICU. And then we've had, I don't think any kickbacks now, right?
No.
Since we changed that. So I think it's a very little piece that I'm talking about there, and we do it all the time, but I think it's what we do every day, right? And
Love it.
that's how we get to that bottom line of better care for that patient, because that's where we're talking about. And if they don't speak up, that would have never happened.
And also too, we recognize who should be driving the train on particular projects. So there's some things on PSI 11. There's a couple projects that we're working on. We're in the process of migrating one unit from a regular med-surg unit over to a step-down unit. And you know, step-downs are heavy respiratory. And also some of the projects that we have that we want now and for the future state for the emergency room. And I think we need to get away from, well, you need to drive the nurses, which is fine, but the leader may not have to be nursing. And what I mean by that is I can think of what Joe's doing for me for PSI 11 and for some transport issues that we have on one of our nursing units. He's the lead on it. Even though the majority of the people on it are nursing, they know that I've supported Joe 100%. And there's another project we're doing with the emergency room. And I told the people, I said, you can come to me for some questions, but at the end of the day, whatever Joe tells me is what I'm going to do. So Joe is the lead. So they understand that mutual relationship. And he's the expert on the topic that we're looking at. I can do the research and get the base knowledge of it. But that true understanding is Joe, and we have to work together. And the teams need to know that's what we're doing. I trust Joe 100% to drive this. And because of it, it was interesting, just this morning, one of the PSI 11s on the particular unit, one of the attendings said something and the nursing and respiratory therapy fixed it and didn't even include us. They were just telling me just for FYI, because they thought I had to report out. I was like, okay, it's done, move on.
But it happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
And we have it from wound.
Yeah,
There's another.
we have a whole nother component.
Yeah, so wound's like a whole other piece of it, but the same
yeah.
kind of relationship and so on we've built between the teams, so it eventually gets bigger than us. But we start driving it. And I think that's I mean, that has decreased HAPUs drastically. And again, it's like you see something, say something, and again, they are that leader, right? That nurse Kara that runs wound, that is I've learned so much from her, right? And saying that is same thing the therapists learn a lot, right? Have them teach it, because she's the experts at wound.
Yep.
They reach out to her all the time, and then she teaches the therapist, even in the room, like, hey, you should do this. And we have a beautiful story about that as well.
Oh, yeah.
We've done
with ECMO stuff.
What ECMO? Do you want to talk?
And nitric detox.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nitric. Yeah.
Let's talk about it, because really my next question is, what are you most proud of? So
A lot.
We have a lot. We have a lot that we are proud of. I'm going to speak for myself, but I'm actually proud. My heart in respiratory is NICU, and I'm actually really proud to be working with Dr. Berry and getting our NICU going in the right direction. We're a level 3, and so I want us to perform like a level 3. And she is allowing me to assist her in that. And I'm really proud about that.
But that's building that relationship and building
relationship.
There. That's another, it's a whole different area, right? So it's the same kind of thing. The same thing we did in the ICUs, we had to do over there. And Lisa's actually driving more of that. But the respect is now there. So she will start moving because of that.
Joe, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the team. I mean, the team, and actually seeing them build their skills and really, again, I'm centric around the patient, but really build their skills. And we've had therapists, and it's kind of interesting, therapists that have left respiratory, one to be a physician. And it's kind of interesting of like, you know, you're sad to see them go, but then you're also happy to see them get where they want to be. And I think in our reviews, we talk about all the time is it doesn't matter if it's something that is not continuing respiratory, right? It's a goal for you, and that's part of your evaluation. And that was one of her goals. Then another one is going to PA, and she's going to PA school. So it like driving past there and getting them to the goals that they want to achieve. I think I'm proud of that, because they might not be with me, but they're going to be in the healthcare longer, that ends up helping patients, right? And I think that's what I'm proud of. And same thing with the nursing, so on. Like I want someone to get better as an ICU nurse, because the more I teach them, right, and the more they teach my team, we'll become a better team, right, in the end. Even though that doesn't affect me directly, it doesn't make me look good in the end, but it helps that patient. I think that's what I'm really proud of.
That's wonderful. Maureen, our nurse cheerleader of RT, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud of we're changing the dialogue.
Oh, yes.
We are, I
Ooh.
listened to when, I still remember, it was kind of funny. Joe's office is right down the hall from mine, and I will literally just open my door and go, Joe. He hears and he comes walking down. I was like, what does she want now? But I hear the difference in the questions that are being asked by our team members. They're very probing. It's very educational, and it's not confrontational, and it's to learn and teach, but also the dialogue between our level of leadership up and down, because, you know, everyone keeps saying it, but I don't think people have truly bought into it. We've got to change. We are not going back to how it was in 2018 and 2019. And to make this work, we have less resources. You know, some people can question, what's the educational preparation? What are we getting into the hospital? So how are we going to change that dialogue to have the communication amongst ourselves to make sure that we can care for these patients with a different trajectory that we're going on, as opposed to business as usual? So that's what I'm most proud of, because our entire team is doing it. You know, Joe and I were just having a conversation about one of our potential leaders that we want to start moving up, and what we need to do together to make them they have that dialogue, but sometimes they fall back. So how do we make them consistently have the dialogue? So that's what I'm most proud of, because we are changing it, and hopefully we can, with our leadership roles, and especially with Lisa and the collaboration she's doing with nursing education, when they come in, the expectation is to change the dialogue. This is how we think. We're a little different here.
Wow. So when I look at the three things that you guys are proud of, it's people, people, and people.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And I think that, and we talk about your triad system of leadership, the technical and the clinical. You guys are in there, but still, it's still that personal feeling. It's that people, people, and people. I wanted to give a shout out to Caroline Hoffman, who brought us all together.
Yes.
Who is a friend of all of us. She has a really interesting question. We're going to finish up with this question: is how do you deal with when someone complains about the different side? So if a nurse complains about an RT, an RT complains about a nurse.
We deal with it all the time.
It happens a lot. But how do you deal with that to continue to foster your culture that you're trying to have? So how does that work for you guys?
I think we grab it in different ways, right? Different situations, right? There's certain situations that are inappropriate, right? We handle them a certain way. There's one where it's maybe communication. A lot of them we dealt with them. I think there's some where it was actually better to have Maureen in the discussion, or even bring them both together to have a conversation. So it depends. Like, you got to know the person, right? Not every person's the same. So you have to see if you could bring them both together and have a conversation and kind of, bury the hatchet kind of discussion. Or we individually talk to them. And then I've done that more and more. I brought Lisa in for a couple that have been on med surge floors that Maureen doesn't run. And it works well. It works well that if both leaders are on the same page, you're not, because some are try to push their ways,
Of course.
and so on. And if we're on the same plan and we expect the same thing out of it for both
Mhm.
employees, there's less that you're gonna be able to get over us. And we make sure, sometimes it's like, maybe we should have changed that, or this is what we should
Yeah.
change for the future of it, or this is what we expect from you, this is what we expect from the other employee. So it's not like I send an email, Maureen, you go handle this.
Mm.
It's like, how do we solve this problem together?
How do we?
Sometimes it's
Right.
actually, sometimes it's been Maureen just sits down with my therapist, because it's actually, she's able to relate to them better than I was able to.
Mhm.
Same thing with, I had Lisa into the discussion for certain therapists that might be easier, or Maureen will ask me just to go talk to her nurse.
Yeah.
Directly, about a situation, and usually it comes back that they ask a question or they want to change something.
Mhm.
There's been maybe once or twice that it's come back and not worked out.
Mhm.
And the person really hasn't worked out. They're not right for the facility. But a lot of times it ends up working out.
Yeah.
I haven't had.
Or Joe will just say something. He told me he said it. I'm like, okay.
I love it. I love it. So, guys, this has been a pleasure. Tuesday of Nurses Week, talking to a great collaborative team. When I think triad, I think nurse, RT, physician. Now I think Lisa, Joe, Maureen as that triad. So that is just wonderful. People, people, people. Fantastic. The RT sidebar barflies have been commenting things fantastic, and we could dive deep into this subject, but I think that you have shown that this can work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
It
It's
also,
not hard. It's not hard at all.
it's not.
We have a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Joe
Hmm.
always gets involved when we're talking about our hair care stories. He's always there with us. He really is in my office.
I say
Yeah.
the same thing in my team. I'm just one of the girls. I talk about hair care products, things of that. I'm just one of the, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on RT Sidebar. Thank you for showing us that this is not impossible, that the outcome that you're looking for is engagement, and just I just saw that, Hannah, but I will it's about engagement. She got me just speechless for a second, but it's about engagement. It's about like, hey, RTs don't need to be there, but you can't do it by yourself. So if you continue to want to do it by yourself, you're going to continue to fail. So I just think that's awesome. So we're going to finish up here, guys. Thank you so much, Maureen, Joe, Lisa. Happy Nurses Week.
Thank you.
Happy Collaboration Week. Whatever
Thank you.
whatever you guys are doing, G Dubs definitely knows what they're doing. Reach out to them if you have questions. They're just fantastic. I want to give a little promo. Next RT Sidebar in 2 weeks is going to be Mindy Conklin, the first APRT in the United States, from Baltimore, not that far from you guys. She's fantastic. We have a webinar coming up, Anna, on 11 June. Check it out. Look at all of our socials. You'll get more information because Angela does a fantastic job with that. First thing, shout outs. You ready? So my first shout out, and I'm going to hand it over to Maureen in just a second, is I think about all the nurses that I've worked with and the great relationships that I had. So I just want to thank all of the nurses, nursing leaders, other RTs, other physicians that I got to collaborate, because you know what? It helped me as a person. It helped me be best. So thank you to all of those. Maureen, shout out for you.
Yes, two. I have two quick ones. The first one is the team that I'm a member of, especially the nurses. Happy Nurses Week to everyone. And at the end of the day, you know, it's not a my team, it's an our team, because I'm just on the same level as them. And then also to my daughter, Grace, she finished her first year of Howard in chemistry, and she did phenomenally well. She's a pre-dental student.
Great.
Gracie!
Woo, I love it. That is amazing. Joe, shout out.
So definitely shout out, it's Nurses Week.
Mhm.
Obviously we couldn't do what we do without nurses. Caitlin and Robin, that are educators that I've learned quite a lot from, that have been also great partners.
Love them.
Yes, love them. Kara, that is our wound director. We've been in the
Oh,
same trenches, and so on, to move things forward with wounds and HAPUs. And again, I've learned a lot from her as well. And then my leadership team, Mike, Rosie, David, Di, Jody, and obviously Lisa. If I didn't miss anyone, but
And Marquis.
yeah, Marquis.
Marquee.
But I appreciate all of them because they drive really the care and bring up certain pieces that we need to change. And they talk to nursing as well.
Mhm.
So they talk to nursing, they have a discussion. I think most recently was actually Marquis. That's why
Yeah.
last night about an ECMO patient and her concern with the ECMO patient. So, and that we said we need to put that in huddle. We need to bring that up for everyone to understand.
Mhm.
So those are things that my eyes weren't even on that patient, that she was able to bring up, and go from there. So if you have anyone else.
Yes, I want to shout out to nurses everywhere. Happy Nurses Week. Woo! And I want a special shout out to Joe. Joe's been
Oh, yeah.
the best boss I've ever had, and I've been in the field for over 30 years. So
Oh,
what a great boss.
oh, I love
Phenomenal
that.
partner. We couldn't
Yes.
do it without
Thank
him.
you.
I love that. My other shout out is to my team. You know, I have a great team too, and I just love them. You know, this is about people. What we do is about people, and you just exemplified the people part of what we do. So thank you guys so much for all that you're doing. I know we're going to see you again soon. So be great. Last shout out, Caroline Hoffman. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for
Yes.
all for bringing us all together.
Yeah,
Thank you so
yes.
much. We love you. Anna, it is time for you to play the music.
Vapotherm does not practice medicine or provide medical services or advice. Any clinical recommendations provided herein are solely those of the speaker. Practitioners should refer to the full indications for use and operating instructions of any products referenced before use. Pelvichco and Hayes are employees of Vapotherm. Butler is a paid consultant, and our guest is not compensated.